Hi, everybody. It's Mimi from Be Heard and Empower Yourself. I really need a lot of power today. So thank God I have, and I also need to relax. So I have just, yeah, Dibb, a pioneering teacher of breath work. And that's what I need. For more than 30 years, she's guided people through integrative practices that blend somatic awareness, psychological insight, and spiritual growth. I've tried a couple of those. She's the founder of the Inspiration Consciousness School and a longtime leader in the Enneagram community, which she will tell us what that is. And today she joins us to explore what it really means to be awakened and alive from the heart. Well, hi, Jessica. How are you?
I'm well, Mimi. Thank you. It's an honor to be on your podcast. And thank you for your honesty and your vulnerability in sharing what's happening for you today.
I have a very bad side. I fainted the other day. I had to go to the hospital. My husband has Parkinson's. All of a sudden, the computer wouldn't work. So let's get back to you. I'm glad you're here. And I have just a couple questions for you so I
Please.
understand this better. What do you think is the most misunderstood aspect of breath work in
Mm.
therapeutic settings?
Um, I think I'll say three things that are the most misunderstood about that in therapeutic settings. One is that um, while it is absolutely true that breath work can support any other modality that somebody is doing, whether it's a psychological therapeutic modality or, acupuncture or some holistic. I mean, breath work is completely complementary and will amplify the results that people are having, including through talk therapy. I think what isn't understood is that sometimes breath work on its own is curative. Like it itself can at times be the antidote, for instance, to psychological distress or anxiety or inability to relax. Or even I have stories of people that have had real illness, physical illnesses. And by doing breath work, they've actually been able to heal them. So I think it's important for people to understand that breath work is both complementary, but also can be curative. Another thing that I would say is sometimes misunderstood about breath work is um, that it's going to be hard to do or that it's going to take a lot of energy because the simplest breathing practices can induce so much regulation in the body, so much balancing of the autonomic and nervous system, sympathetic and parasympathetic. And that even just easy flowing breathing can really be powerful. And I even think that a third aspect is that people think that they have to do a certain technique. And I certainly teach certain practices that have evidence based research that go with them that show that certain techniques are very effective for different things like anxiety reduction, like elevating of mood, like helping with respiratory distress, all of that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But what I think isn't what people really need to understand is just a person getting in touch with their own breathing and the power of it
Yeah.
and learning how to optimize their own breathing in a relaxed way is
Yeah.
actually probably the most powerful medicine that we can
Well,
have.
I have PTSD and
Yeah.
chronic depression
Mhm.
and anxiety disorder from a lot of things that happened to me the first half of my life. So I have done lots of therapy. And what role does breath work play in addressing that trauma that's stored in my body? Because I know the
Mhm.
body tells
Right.
story.
Right. Just like
The book.
Bessel van der
Yes.
Kolk taught us, the body keeps the score. And
Yes.
also,
That's
but, and, you know, also concomitant with Bessel was the scientist Candace Pert, who talked about molecules of emotion. And she was really the researcher that helped us begin to understand that emotions are stored in the cells of our body,
yeah.
and that memory is stored in the cells of our body, not just our brain.
Right.
The powerful thing about breath work, of course, is that it oxygenates or it activates and oxygenates the cells of our body and allows us to have a somatic sensing of these emotions and these memories. And I think that, you know, we've been such a cognitive culture. We think we have to know, you know, what is going on, but actually our emotions are very intelligent and our body is very intelligent. And so when we can have greater somatic access, we can begin to have what Eugene Gendlin, who was also a psychotherapist, called the felt sense of things. You know, we might not even know what exactly happened, but we know that there's anger. We can feel it stored in our body. We can feel
I
the
have
grief.
an example for you. Perfect. At 5 years old, I know what the incident was, and it was traumatic. My parents, for I won't go into the reasons, couldn't take care of us for a week, so they put us in an orphanage.
Oh my
My
God.
brother and myself, and we were 4 and 5 years old. And I can remember every detail of being in that orphanage. But my memory from 5 until 12 is erased.
Yes.
So that's kind of what you're talking about in a way, I think.
Yes.
And
Yes, because your being had to adapt to this traumatic
oh,
episode and kept on recapitulating how to get through it
I
rather
felt
than being able to
betrayed
live.
and
Yeah.
not good enough, and I did something wrong, all those feelings. And I had to support my brother's emotional
Yeah.
state
Yeah.
because he was a year younger than me and always looked up to me. So,
I'm so sorry that happened to you. And I really actually understand, you know, for a child, that isolation, that abandonment, that sense of rejection, and just
yes,
the unfamiliarity. You know, I can remember once when my parents left, you know, went on a vacation and had us stay in a home with our babysitter, but now we were with her parents as well. And it was just so unfamiliar. And they
oh,
weren't,
yeah.
you know, very warm and fuzzy people. And I remember just being traumatized by that. I can't imagine what it was like for you to be in the orphanage. I'm so sorry.
No, and they minimized it and they gaslighted us because when we got older and brought it up, because that was something we didn't forget. Well, I don't think my brother would bring it up, but I would say, "Oh, it wasn't that bad. You're only there a
Mhm.
short time. Your father came every day to see you."
Yeah.
It's like, or they'd say, "Oh, don't bring that up again." So, anyway, let's go on. So, emotional awareness. We were in that area. What does that mean to you? Emotional awareness.
It means that we're not rejecting, we're not suppressing, and we're not rejecting our emotions. We're actually honoring the wisdom that they have. You know, we don't feel rage. I mean, there can be chemical, you know, I don't want to minimize that there could be genetic or physiological things that happen to people that set certain chemical reactions in the body that
Mhm.
might create an emotion that isn't what that it isn't really connected to what a person experiences. But for the most part, we don't get angry or feel depressed or have grief or feel joy or love for no reason at all. You know, there's an intelligence in our emotions, and so many of us had childhoods or live in cultures that have told us that, you know, don't express that, don't feel this is too noisy, this makes me feel uncomfortable. A lot of families certain emotions just make the family feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And so emotional awareness would be actually having a felt sense and an appreciation for our emotions and what they're bringing to us, both in terms of information and intelligence about what we need,
Yeah.
what we want, who we are, and also that it brings depth and meaning to our lives. So that's what emotional awareness would be for me. And I think that breath work is probably, we know from anecdotal and observation, and then now, of course, some research happening with it. It is probably one of the, if not the fastest way to actually feel safe, to
Yeah.
feel our emotions and actually get access to those emotions. Because when we do breath work,
Yeah.
even though we're also stimulating the neocortex, which helps us have more self-observation,
Mhm.
more awareness in general, one thing that we know for sure is that breath work really stimulates the limbic brain and brings awareness where all our emotions are stored. And the neocortex then has awareness of those emotions. So it can work very rapidly to get in touch with our emotions.
Yes. And I have certain emotions that are less strong than others. Like I don't feel sadness when some people feel sadness. I don't connect sometimes to for watching a sad movie. My husband's crying, but I'm just taking in what's going on and why it's a sad time. I'm not reacting with tears.
Mhm.
The only time I cry is when I'm frustrated and something is not, it has to be a lot of frustration. But then
Mhm.
I might cry, start to cry, and I'll stop myself because I don't want to cry, which is another problem. So what I do now with the anxiety is I go right to my insight timer, which is a meditation
Yes, I
app,
know that timer. Yes.
and I love it. And I go to the anxiety section of its library and I breathe. And I also sometimes do tapping while I'm
Mhm.
breathing.
Mhm.
Yeah. So at least I have the tools, and that does help, and anybody could do that. But um, like there's a lot of barriers that people like you don't see their true self, or
Mhm.
if they think they see it, they don't actually go deeper.
Yes,
Does that make sense?
absolutely. I think that many people, I mean, unfortunately, I think that particularly in the United States and some other cultures, there's actually a lack of depth. We're so sort of production oriented, and now with the proliferation of social media and constant digital input, I think many people are suffering a great deal of depression is that they're suffering from a lack of depth about life and about themselves. And they don't really know how to do self inquiry and what we might call inner work. And I think that one of the things that can happen with breath work is that we create such a sense of we get so regulated. We know how to regulate ourselves even during stress or when we're feeling certain emotions, or maybe other people are getting angry at us, that we start to feel more capable of looking inside and really being with these deeper parts of ourselves. And of course, it's true, as you're sharing, that some of those deeper parts may be repressed emotions, buried desires, trauma, and all of that. But also, underneath all of that is our original blessing, we might say. It's our original gifts, it's our potential. And I
Exactly.
think that every human being is born with a desire to love and to be loved, and even to be love itself. And I think that is the greatest promise of breath work, because we're actually born neurologically wired to breathe. That's the first thing that
Of
has to
course.
happen.
Right.
And we're neurologically wired to love. We will
Right.
love our parents at that moment of birth and past that. even if they're neglectful, even if they're abusive, we are wired to love. So the twinning of the fact that we're wired to connect and love and to breathe at the same time, I think people who do breath work on a regular basis start to feel that, just like they know that their day, their moments are about love, are about, sharing that with other people. And I think our culture could really shift from a culture of fear to a culture of love if
Those are the
more
two
people,
choices. They
yes,
are
if
the only two choices.
that's right. And if people had that
Yeah.
physiological foundation of regulation so that they felt safer to go deep
Right.
inside of themselves, they would be
Right.
able to access that love more
Now,
regularly.
people deal with their stuff that happens when they're young in a certain way. And mine was first men, and then it was alcohol. And
Mm.
I am sober 35 years at the moment.
Congratulations. That's split. That's wonderful.
Yes. And after 2020, I had
Mhm.
some depression because I am taking care of a husband with stage 4 Parkinson's, like I said. And we weren't going out because I have an autoimmune disease and I had breast cancer. And we weren't going out into that. They don't know what's going on.
Right.
Right. So I went back into therapy online. And the therapist said, "Oh, like clean your room when he's getting on your nerves." Because a caretaker, when you're dealing with somebody that he's just starting with the dementia a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
it's tough after a while. It's tough. And then
Yeah.
after a certain time of day, he doesn't really want to talk. So she said, "Go in and write something." I said, "I'm not a writer." She said, "You told me you wanted to be an English teacher." I went, "Oh, that's true." I said, "So I know grammar and I have a big vocabulary because I read a lot of books to get away from my alcoholic father and my narcissistic mother." So I wrote 4 books since she told me to do that. And the first one was Raised by Wolves, Trapped by Demons. The wolves were my parents, and the demons were the band-aids I thought would fix me, the men, the alcohol. And I
That's a
have to
powerful
say,
title. I just have to say that's a powerful
everybody
title.
says that. They
Yeah.
love it, but it's a true title.
Yeah.
My mother never hugged or kissed us, and my father was an alcoholic, and he only hugged and kissed us when he was drunk. So I
Wow.
did not grow up in a loving home, which is a big part of my, I don't want to say psychosis, but my problem. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, then I did a podcast and a YouTube show, which is just the video part of this. And I realized that I had to go through all that, like you were just saying, I had to go through all that to find out what I needed. Now I knew. My mission is to help other people, mostly women. And I really believe that. And I believe my legacy are these films that are going to be there. Once you're on the internet, you're on the internet. So I think that ties in. Now,
I mean, I've looked at your list of your podcasts and
other titles.
it's very impressive, Mimi.
Thank you.
The breadth and the depth. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, I cover many different things, many. And I'm starting to get people walking up to me saying, "I'm watching your podcast," and my subscribe is up to like 100, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, all that. So now I'm getting stuff from the platforms talking about ads and stuff. But it's pretty good. So that means like something.
Well, thank you for wanting to give that gift to the world. Yes.
Yeah, I feel that. I really do. I feel that I had to go through all the mire and muck to find the mission, that why am I here? And I really feel like that because if somebody is being abused, I can relate to them,
Mm-hmm.
and I could tell them what I did.
Mm-hmm.
So have you, with the client, witnessed a really, really big transformation
Mm-hmm.
once they understand their gifts and
Mm-hmm.
their blind spots?
I have. I have witnessed huge transformations spiritually, cognitively, emotionally, and physically. I mean, it ranges from, I've had cases where people had asthma and they were on medication, and we did the inner work, the breath work. They found their capacity to breathe, to understand what had made them not feel that they could breathe. And they were able, to actually either reduce their medicine or let go of it. I had a concentration camp survivor from Auschwitz who had never been willing to talk to a therapist. I mean, she had talked to a therapist a couple of times at her son's urging, but she didn't. She told the therapist, I'm not, she never talked about her experience. Nobody knew what had actually happened. And he finally brought her to me, and she told me the same thing. I'm not going to tell you. But we just sat together, and periodically, when she would say something that I felt was meaningful about her son or about herself or her life, I would just breathe deeply. And the mirror neurons started to happen between us. And so she started to breathe deeply when I would breathe deeply.
Yes.
And
Yes.
all I can tell you is that at some point, after about 45 minutes, I had the privilege of hearing how she survived Auschwitz. She told me the whole story. And then she never really talked about it again, but she did get less afraid in her life until Steven Spielberg's Shoah project, when he was preparing for Schindler's List, the movie, came into town and they were interviewing Holocaust. And she had the courage to go and do an interview with them. And it's still up on their website.
Wow.
I've had war veterans who had trauma, um, able to realize that part of their brain was trapped in the past,
Mhm.
and they were able to get into the present through breath work. I've had people who didn't believe in themselves, didn't believe that they had
Mhm.
gifts to give to the world, and they find out that they do.
Me.
Had addicts,
I'm
yeah.
an example of that.
I've had addicts that, were able to um, get off of different substances from, cigarettes to alcohol to other things. I mean, yeah, I've even had people that had mental distress, like, bipolar or, PTSD, like you're talking about, who found because they knew that their breathing was within themselves always, they found that they could create a center that they could always rely on, that they didn't have to be always affected by everything that was going on outside of them. So their triggers were reduced and they got more regulated. And now they were able to, I'm thinking of one woman right now, two women, and I know there's many, probably, 30 or 40 of them that had sexual abuse or incest, who actually got to the point where they didn't think about it anymore. It took a few years with breath work, but they got to the point where it was not the center of their life anymore. So I've absolutely seen what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
Oh, yeah. And, people are actually very fragile and sensitive. Like
Mhm.
myself, like I come off hard, like, oh, she can do anything. She had a hard life, but look where she is now. But yet, they don't understand. I carry that with me and I can be triggered by certain things.
Mhm.
For instance, my husband, as he gets worse, needs to be close to me all the time. I'll
Mhm.
be in the kitchen and he'll be right behind me, like I can't move, he's right there. And that bothers me.
Mhm.
So the one day I said, I'm going to tell you why. Because my father criticized everything I did, how I made the bed, how I cleaned the sink, all
Mhm.
that stuff. So when you're standing there and I'm doing chores, I feel like you're waiting to criticize me. And
Mhm.
that could be the connection right there, right? As simple as that.
Yes. Yeah.
So that But I spoke the truth like that woman, when she finally spoke the truth, her burden was lightened a little bit.
Hmm.
She wasn't carrying it alone. She had told you.
Hmm.
I believe in that too.
Absolutely. And then another way that the actual breathing or breath practices or breath work helps, and I would offer this to you as well when you're feeling that thing about your husband,
Yeah.
is when we breathe consciously, um, we really come out of our unconscious and we are aware of the present moment. It's very hard to be breathing deeply or optimally and be in the past. Like it really just lands you in the present. And so, for anybody with trauma, it's so important for them to be able to know, wait a minute, I'm not back there in, 2001 or 1987 or, whatever the year is. I'm actually here right now. I'm having a memory about the past, but it's not happening right now. And I think that the breathing is so somatic, and it
Mhm.
also connects the three parts of the brain, the neocortex, the limbic, and the brainstem, where we
Right.
usually automatically breathe from, that we now have global neural coherence, and we're not in the past, we're in the present.
We do meditation at our church community.
Mm.
It's not like a regular church. So right in the middle, we'll do meditation. And he
Mm.
always says, you have 50 people here meditating, and the vibes are going out of this building. And so when you talk about the global
Hmm.
feelings, that's what we believe in, that if more of us had kind thoughts and meditated, it would reach some of these places that need it.
So true. So true what you're saying, Mimi.
Yeah. And so simple and believable for me. And what I like to do is tell people, keep your heart open, because even if you've been abused, whatever your story is, whatever, keep your heart open. And the prayer I say at night, I always end with, and be kind to everyone you meet. That's a prayer, because that's what I
Absolutely.
do. That's what I do. Well, I'm going to let you go because I know you have something else.
No, no, it's okay. I don't want to, we don't need to stop. I was just
Okay.
checking. Yeah.
Okay. All right, then we'll keep going. But um, yes, the breath work. I think people don't realize the power of it. But think about it. When there's a situation, how many times do people hold their breath?
Exactly.
They hold the breath.
They even hold the breath when there's joy as well as fear or pain.
Yeah,
So it's just again that feeling like I can't handle this. And when you learn to do breath work, that's one of the things about it. You learn to do it in the face of pain, in the face of fear, in the face of joy, in the face of love. And then you learn that there's this deeper part of you that can be present to your life experiences and deal with them with wisdom.
that's wonderful. I like that. I'm just amazed how powerful like meditation and breath work are. And with my husband, people with stage 4 Parkinson's, they can get very depressed and very anxious
Mm-hmm.
because they can't do something that they used to do very easily.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I see he's frustrated, I say, meditation time. We meditate every day, no matter what.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. And the clue with why I bring up he's anxious, I go in and they have topics, anxiety, anger, which one? And I'll pick anxiety. And then we'll listen to a meditation. And when we're done, I'll say, do you feel better? And he goes, yes.
Well,
And
Mimi, he's so lucky to have you.
thank you. I
And
tell him every day.
and I'm thinking that there's three. very simple breathing practices that we could do right now in about 10 minutes for your
Okay,
listeners and for you and your husband
let's do
that I
it.
think would be really helpful.
Okay.
So, the first one is to kind of shift or transform our orientation towards breathing in general that will create both physiological shifts of relaxation and cortisol lowering so that we don't have as much anxiety anyway and be more regulating, but also create an emotional and spiritual shift. So let's do that shift in orientation first, and then we'll do two other practices.
Okay.
So I'm going to invite everybody now. Don't try to change your breathing. If you feel comfortable, by the way, to close your eyes, you can do that. But if not, you can keep them open. But don't try to shift your breathing. Just tune into your breathing, kind of feel how it's coming in and going out. Don't judge it if it feels shaky or awkward or it feels like you're not breathing fully. Just befriend it. Just, it's been supporting you your whole life. Just befriend it. And it's supporting you right now. And now, can you allow yourself to notice that without any conscious effort on your part, you don't have to expend any energy that you would expend, picking up something or talking or scrolling through your phone, or, you don't have to do anything. You are being breathed right now. You have always been being breathed. There is some kind of larger force, whether you want to call it the divine or love or creation or even just biochemistry. Something is breathing you all the time. Can you allow yourself to receive that? Can you allow yourself to relax into that greater truth? That even when you're distressed or when you are in love or when you are feeling joy or when you're feeling grief, something that is beyond your individual intelligence is breathing you. And how might that affect your sense of being in the world? And so I'm just going to be silent for a minute while we together do that, just receiving our being breathed. Beautiful. Now we're going to just flow right into the second practice. And I just want to say that even if you just did this first practice for 7 minutes a day, that's all it takes. After a week, if not 5 days, you will start to feel a shift in your life. We can add a second practice. And the second practice is now that you're aware and appreciating that you're being breathed and what that might mean for you emotionally and spiritually, as well as physiologically, what would happen if you allow yourself to be breathed deeper? So now there's the idea of partnering whatever it is that is breathing us. We're going to be aware of how we might open our bodies, open our hearts to being breathed more deeply. And in the doing of that, we might want to place a hand on our belly and just notice when we inhale, do we allow our belly to expand so that the diaphragm can contract more and pull in more air? And if we don't, no judgment, but just that we might want to relax the belly so that when we inhale, it can expand a little bit more. So let's just take about 30 seconds for that, just to notice how we might, and it's not something that we're going to fix overnight, by the way. If it's not happening, it takes some time, but if we practice every day for 7 minutes, it will slowly but surely change. And then the next thing we can do to be breathed deeper, or to allow ourselves to be breathed deeper, is to take our hands and cup them right underneath our bottom rib on both sides. And just feel as you're breathing along your rib cage, just press in gently. Don't press into the point of pain, just press in gently. But notice if it feels like there's any stuck places, or somehow your rib cage is just not moving, because the diaphragm is connected to your rib cage. And if you can kind of loosen up the space there, sometimes the diaphragm's even a little adhered to that rib cage. If we can slowly but surely over many days and weeks kind of free up that space, it will help us to be able to breathe deeper. So I'm going to again be quiet for just a minute and let each of us explore while we're receiving our breath. Now we're allowing ourselves to be breathed deeper, just freeing up that space between the bottom of the rib cage and the diaphragm. Beautiful. And then lastly, put your hand on your heart, on the center of your chest, one hand, or you can do two if you prefer. And just in the sense of allowing yourself to being breathed more deeply by whatever it is that's breathing us, just invite your chest to lift ever so slightly towards the end of each inhale, and to relax and let go as you're exhaling. And then if you're doing this practice once in a while, or hopefully daily, of receiving the breath, being breathed, and then second practice, allowing yourself to be breathed deeper and noticing the ways that your body could open more. Towards the end of the breathing practice, you might want to ask yourself internally, now that I am breathing deeper, now that I'm receiving my breathing deeper, what has that put me in touch with that is beneficial for my life? You could just ask yourself that question and let your heart be filled with the appreciation of what this has invited you to experience that is beneficial for your life. Beautiful, everybody. Thank you for joining. We're going to do one other little practice that is for helping to lower anxiety. But before we do, I want to ask you, Mimi, What did that help you get in touch with that was beneficial for your life?
Um, Not making things more important than they really are.
Beautiful. Thank you. Now, I want to say to everybody, so you have this little tool that what I just took you through, if you literally would do that 7 minutes a day, you will be shocked at how the quality of your life will really change, how much more present, peaceful, capable, in touch with the things that really matter happen. And even when you have days when you lose it,
Yeah.
you'll come back to the practice the next day and it will remind you. But sometimes our anxiety level in the moment is so high that even when we try to receive our breathing, we're just, anxiety is such a life-threatening feeling. So I
Yeah.
wanted to give you one little practice to do to try to interrupt that anxiety in the moment. Okay.
Need
And
that.
this is evidence-based. It was studied at Stanford and other places by a Dr. Spiegel and Dr. Huberman and other people that were on that team. And what they discovered was that the most effective, they were comparing 3 different kinds of breath work for anxiety. And they were surprised. This was not what they were expecting to find because they had the famous box breathing that the Naval SEALs do, which is very cool and very helpful. They had cyclical hyperventilation that some teachers do. That's a very powerful breathing. But what they found was that this one is even better for reducing anxiety and surprisingly to elevate mood, which they were not expecting either. It's very simple. So, what you do is you breathe through your nose, you inhale, and when you finish inhaling, you then take in another little sip of breath. So you're sort of having a 2-part inhale. You breathe as deeply as you can, comfortably without straining. And then you kind of take in another little sip. And then when you breathe out, you sigh out through your mouth and you go, and then you breathe in again in 2 segments and then out through the mouth. And 5 minutes, they found, will reduce anxiety and elevate mood. And guess what else they found? That if a person does it for 28 days, or maybe it was 30, and I apologize for not remembering the exact amount of days, it was either 28 or 30. So when you do it daily, when you're having anxiety, you get what we might call a state change. You change from anxiety to more calm, or from depression to more elevation. If you do it for 28 to 30 days, you get what we call a trait change, meaning that consistently over time, your anxiety levels are lower and your mood is more elevated. So
Spell
that's
that. Trait. Spell that for me.
trait, Trait, like
Okay. I wasn't
like a
even.
trait. So I'd like to do that with everybody for at least a minute or two. Let's just try it together. And that way, if you have any questions, Mimi, you can ask them.
Definitely.
So everybody can do it in their own rate. Just breathe in and then breathe in another little sip through the nose, if possible. If you can't, you can use the mouth. And when you breathe out, everybody breathe out through the mouth with a kind of a sigh. Okay. So we'll do this for about a minute. And then everybody follow that up by letting go of that particular practice and just becoming aware again that you're being breathed and that you can receive that breathing. You can even partner that breathing by allowing yourself to be breathed a little deeper at your own rate, at your own individual rate. And let's just do that again for a minute. And now let's ask ourselves again, what has this breathing allowed me to get in touch with that is beneficial for my life? And one final thing, everyone, to honor the meditation that Mimi talked about, where you kind of globally send things out. Can you be aware that when you are breathing, so is everyone else? And so are all 8 billion plus other humans and billions and trillions of other animals, and even the trees and the mycelium and the mushrooms and the air and the water and the land all contribute to this oxygen cycle. So that when we breathe consciously, we're entering the one breath that is taking place on this planet. And it allows us to be in companionship with all life. When you are breathing in, many people are breathing out. When you are breathing out, many people are breathing in, and plants are taking in your carbon dioxide. And there's just a huge cycle of the one breath. Thank you, everyone, for joining in that breathing meditation.
Thank you. That was a plus. And thank you for being with us for this powerful conversation and your insights into breathing, presence, and potential. I need it as a reminder and something we can feel and practice in rest time or in the closet for 2 minutes at work. You can do it anywhere.
Right. Even at your desk at work, you can.
Yeah, nobody knows you're breathing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Breathing. So, for my listeners, if something sparked for you today, let it move into action. Take a deeper breath, try a new practice, or simply meet the next moment with more awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And we're grateful you joined us, Jessica, and we hope that we will all carry the energy forward into whatever comes next. And there's a quote, author unknown: inhale the future, exhale the past.
Very beautiful.
Which I really like. So
May
we'll
I?
have you back.
Oh, that would be wonderful. May I
You have
offer
to.
one quote too that I think you would
Oh,
appreciate?
yes, please.
It's by the great poet Rumi, who is, according to many Google and AI searches, the most beloved and well-read poet on the planet.
Yes.
Because he honored every kind of tradition. He honored Buddhism and Christianity and Islam and Judaism. And so anyway, But he has this poem where he says, there is a kind of breathing that is a shame and a suffocation. There's another kind of breath, a love breath, that opens you into infinity.
Oh, how powerful.
Yeah.
Well, we have so many things, side things that we need to talk about. This was just like an introduction.
Okay.
So I'll talk to you soon. And you know what? I'm going to give you my phone number when this is done, and I want you to give me your phone number because
Okay.
it's like I can't even call her. All right, everybody. I hope you got a lot out of this one because it was really good. And
Many
just
blessings.
remember, yeah, just remember all you have to do is breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Inhale
Yep.
the future,
It's
exhale the
free.
past. Yeah, but you can subscribe to my site. That's
Yeah.
free too. All right, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful, restful day.